Good day or good evening, depending on your time zone. I'm Larry Campbell, the President Emeritus of ICEVI and the former Director of the International Program at the Overbrook School for the Blind. It's my great pleasure to chair this session of the World Blindness Summit, where we will launch a new publication entitled Partnerships for Change, National Strategies, Regional Collaboration. This book tells the story of a more than 3-decade-long development program that has addressed the challenges faced in fully including men and women who are blind into the education and employment sectors to which they have for far too long been denied equal access. It's a story that demonstrates how the power of technology in the hands of motivated and empowered blind youth can affect real change. Today, from all corners of the world, we are participating in this global summit using accessible technology that just a few decades ago we could only dream of. Of course, some of you in the audience today have grown up in the digital world where assistive technologies have always been part of your life. However, for many of you in under-resourced countries, these accessible technologies are new and in some countries still largely unavailable, a situation we really must try to change. The story this book tells might never have been told without the vision and support of the two persons to whom we dedicated, Ryoshi and Yohei Sasakawa, the founder and the current chairperson of the Nippon Foundation. In a few moments, you'll meet Chairman Sasakawa, who urged us to tell his story, to share the approaches that we have used, the lessons we've learned, and the regional network we have built that to date has reached more than 31,000 individuals in 9 countries, mostly in Southeast Asia. Our story begins in an era when we were in the very early stages of the development of accessible technologies, a point in time when many in the blindness community feared that the digital age would leave them behind. In 1985, the Overbrook School for the Blind launched a small experimental program to provide leadership training to blind youth from around the world. Over the next 15 years, that program, with significant scholarship support from the Nippon Foundation, graduated 278 blind youth, 48 experienced teachers from 45 countries. These individuals learned the power of technology and the critical role it could play in future education and employment opportunities for persons who are blind. You'll meet a number of those individuals and hear their stories. Beginning in the mid-1990s, with the urging of our graduates, that small Philadelphia program began to develop outreach initiatives. The first in 1996, with support from the Open Societies Foundation, was in Eastern Europe and the Baltics. A second, larger and more ambitious regional program was launched in Southeast Asia in 1998, with support from a second endowment fund created by the Nippon Foundation. My collaborators on this book, Dr. Mani from ICEVI and Wenru Nu from the Overbrook School, and I were determined to find a way for you, the reader, to actually meet some of the wonderful young people who have been the true authors of this story. The solution we arrived at, that we hope you'll enjoy, comes in the form of 52 short videos that are embedded throughout the book that introduce the reader to the priorities established by blind people, the challenges encountered, and the solutions developed to create needed change. Throughout the book, you will meet many of those who led the way, developing partnerships at the national and regional levels, and today are activists that are changing what it means to be blind in Southeast Asia. Let me share a few words about how we've structured the book. Following a brief introduction to the 3 principal partner organizations, you will meet a remarkable woman. Genevieve Caulfield was a 1905 graduate of Overbrook who began her work in Asia in 1923 in Japan, going on to Thailand, Myanmar, and Vietnam, where she had a major impact on the development of education and self-advocacy services for blind and visually impaired people. You will then learn of the challenges faced by Overbrook as it transitioned from a US-based program to a more regionally based initiative, and the challenges faced by ICEVI as it grappled with the task of unlocking schoolhouse doors for the vast majority of blind children in under-resourced regions of the world. As Overbrook established the base for its regional initiative in Thailand, ICEVI was in the midst of planning a global campaign to dramatically expand access to education for blind children in the developing world, where on average only 1 in 10 had access to education. These separate but related initiatives led to a convergence of paths in 2002 and a partnership between Overbrook and ICEVI that over the course of this story has addressed needs at all levels of the education system, from primary to tertiary, and also tackled barriers that were created by policy and continued to work on access to gainful employment. The next 2 chapters of the book provide the reader with an understanding of the many issues the program dealt with to bring about needed changes in the 9 countries that are the partners in this regional network. Fundamental to all of this work were 3 critical factors. First, leadership by individuals who are blind in all decision making. Second, the power and importance of assistive technology in shaping solutions. And third, the importance of fostering an active cross-border collaboration between the 9 participating countries. All that has been achieved arises from the eagerness with which the participating countries embrace the willingness to work together, to share achievements and occasional defeats, knowing that together they would be stronger. This spirit very much reminds me of that old African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Through written word and embedded video footage, the reader will travel through the region, learn how countries tackle specific challenges, shared experiences, created solutions that have led to long-term positive change. In the final chapter of the book, we reflect on some of what we refer to as the favorable winds of the first 2 decades of the 21st century that assisted and supported our efforts to bring about change. We share with the reader the development principles that have guided our work from the outset. We present these not as a magic formula that we have developed, but rather as issues that the reader may wish to reflect on as they strive to change what it means to be blind in their country or region, and create a world that is open, inclusive, and leaves no one behind. It is now my great pleasure to introduce to you 2 young people who know this regional program from a different perspective. These are individuals who have been both beneficiaries of the program, as well as individuals who have contributed their time and talents to bringing partnerships, building partnerships, and creating much needed change. Vina Irawan is a wife, mother, and an active member of the Indonesian Blind Union. I first met Vina when she was part of a focus group planning the 2006 pilot project to create more inclusive higher education facilities in Indonesia. She's a 2006 graduate of Muhammadiyah University and with a degree in communications and public relations. She's held positions with Intercontinental Hotel Corporation and Standard Chartered Bank. Currently, she's involved in online marketing in the consumer goods and fashion industry. Over to you, Vina.
Thank you, Larry. Nice introduction. In 2006, recognizing the limited number of persons with visual impairment able to access higher education, the Nippon Foundation launched a project with Overbrook International and ICEVI It's called the Higher Education Program. It makes more open and inclusive university. We were lucky the Nippon Foundation chose Indonesia to be the pilot project. Developed with Indonesia Blind Union and Mitra Netra Foundation, the project started in 2 big cities in Indonesia and now has reached 6 other countries in our region. The project greatly expanding from open and inclusive university to open market employment. The project becoming bridge between university and open market employment. I was one of the students who get benefit from the higher education project, and I want to share you my own story. I lost my sight when I was high school. I don't know how to continue my study, so is my family. Don't know how to deal with this kind of situation. And then I met Mitra Netra, a resources center based in Jakarta, which provides services for blind in education. Mitra Netra encouraged me to proceed to university. I entered the university in 2006, majoring in communication. The same year, the higher education came. Back then, only few of us has notebook because it's quite costly for us. We have to go to certain places to do our assignment. We delay submit our assignment and thesis. The worst part, some of the students drop out because of that. The project lent us notebook. With notebook at hand, we can do our assignment anytime we feel convenient. We able to submit our assignment on time. It is so delightful. Open book application was also introduced by the project, along with scanner and talking computer. They put it in university libraries, in public libraries, so we can read books as many as we want, not to depend on the volunteer. Able to access technology and knowledge, just like students without disabilities, make us feel confident and convince our family and community that blind students able to study in university if the support is ready and suitable for us. In recent years, the project has more focused attention on open market employment. I know we are all realize how big issue employment is for blind people everywhere. While there is much to be done, good progress is being made. I particularly proud that the soft skill training that developed here in Indonesia is being used throughout the regions. This soft skill training is helping to prepare us for the challenges of expanding open market employment opportunity. On behalf of my colleague here in Indonesia and throughout the regions, I would like to express sincere thanks to the Nippon Foundation for the care, concern, and assistance which is bringing important change.
Thanks, Vina. Like Vina, our next speaker, Sohan Motwani from the Philippines, also lost his sight as a high school student. However, as you will learn, it didn't slow him down much. His intelligence, determination, along with support from the Philippine Partner Resources for the Blind, led him to graduate with honors from De La Salle College of St. Benil. He now works as a software engineer for a leading Philippine software development company. Let's hear from Sohan about his journey and his take on the power of technology to create change. Over to you, Sohan.
Technology has unequivocally transformed our lives from the ground up. It has completely altered the way we perform our day-to-day activities. The advent of the internet and the introduction of such handheld gadgets as computers, tablets, and smartphones have opened up an entire world of information available to us simply at the click of a button. All this, undoubtedly, has made our lives so much more convenient. Whether it be the transition from snail mail to email, or whether it be the transition from printed maps to the GPS, or whether it be the evolution of our modes of transportation. And since the past year, ever since transport and travel have been restricted, we've also been using teleconferencing to accomplish pretty much the same goals. This all reminds me of something that my professor emphasized back when I was in college. The way he defined technology was that technology was nothing more than a way of doing things. And all of these examples that we've come across just a while earlier all allude to this fact. The goal that is being accomplished is just the same. The objective is exactly the same. The medium by which that goal is reached, that objective is accomplished, is what has changed, is what has become more convenient. The goal of snail mail and email is still to communicate, but email has made it much faster. The goal of the GPS and the printed maps is to get to our destination, but now it's become so much more convenient. The goal of transportation is to get things done. The goal is the same, but transporting ourselves from one point to another has become so much more faster now, which means that technology is indeed simply a way of doing things. Now, before I proceed any further, I think it's important for me to first introduce myself as well. So let me bring you all down memory lane for just a while. I was born in the year 1996 as a sighted individual. I did everything a sighted kid would do. I participated in sports, I tinkered with technology, I read, I studied, I virtually did everything that I was passionate about. I enjoyed my life to the fullest. Until the age of 16, when it felt like it was the end of the world for me. At the age of 16, I developed a condition which led to complete blindness. Eventually, they tried convincing me to go back and study. I had to agree because I thought there was no use sitting at home and doing nothing. So, I eventually got in touch with the resources for the blind. I put across my story. I said I wanted to study, but I had a very simple condition, that I wanted to study in the exact same school from where I had began my studies. I was deeply in love with my school because it was not just a school for me, it was for me an avenue to hone my skills. The Don Bosco Technical Institute of Makati was indeed not just a simple institution. It was an institution that imparted practical lessons, and thus I wanted to continue my studies in that very same institution. The resources for the blind, upon hearing this, said that I indeed could. And I was taken aback because I thought since I had lost my eyesight, I would need to study in the school for the blind. They encouraged me, they empowered me, they supported me, and they even approached the management of the institution. The management was convinced. They thought I could be given another chance. I had one last year of high school remaining anyway. They did give me another chance and they welcomed me with open arms. With the help of RBI, with the resources that RBI provided, I was able to graduate with flying colors. The resources for the blind directed me towards university, where I had desired to pursue my bachelor's degree. They directed me towards the De La Salle College of St. Benilde due to its inclusive nature. While I was in university, I joined a number of competitions, out of which I came victorious. Not only that, I graduated with flying colors. I graduated with Latin honors. Today, I work as a software engineer in a renowned company in the Philippines. Now, you might be asking, in spite of all of these challenges, how were you able to achieve all this in such a small amount of time? It's not easy to transition from being a sighted individual to completely incurring blindness. How was this all possible? And I will again go back from where I started, technology. Yes, folks, it was technology that helped me cope with my situation. Back in the day, when people developed visual impairment, or when people were born with visual impairment, they had to learn to use Braille. Braille should definitely be learned even today. It is a universally accepted standard. However, in these days, technology, screen readers and computers almost can achieve the same results as Braille did. And essentially, this is the second point I wish to put across when it comes to technology. That technology isn't just a medium that makes our lives convenient. In fact, technology is responsible for breaking barriers. Technology has broken commercial barriers, societal barriers, geographical barriers, you name it. All the barriers that might have existed before the advent and the growth of technology, the advancement of technology, all of those barriers are completely dismantled today. And all of these barriers, the dismantling of all of these barriers, have allowed collaboration to flourish. Organizations such as the Nippon Foundation, working together with the ICEVI, the Overbrook School for the Blind, the RBI, the ATRI, government agencies and NGOs all across Southeast Asia and all over the world. Technology has allowed all of these organizations to collaborate and channel resources towards individuals such as myself, for me to be able to realize my aspirations and my dreams. However, the fun thing about these organizations, the great thing about these organizations is that it's not just resources that they provide. They also provide mindset. I still am very, very fondly able to recall the very first time when I was able to reach RBI. When I put across my story, one thing that they told me was, if you think it's the end of the world for you, it's not. It's just a change in lifestyle that is required for you to move ahead and pursue your dreams. And true enough, 9 years back, I couldn't have even thought of being right in front of you today, speaking to you throughout this medium. But it was through RBI. It was through all of these lovely organizations that have committed themselves to achieving these goals, that have committed themselves to provide individuals such as myself with another chance. These organizations have done a fabulous work. And before I take my place, I would like to share a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. once very beautifully said that if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward.
Thanks, Sohan. In his foreword to this book, UN Ambassador Aubrey Webson speaks of how well the work we describe fits 4 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and its overarching principle to leave no one behind. It is now my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you a man who is a living example of that principle, a man who has devoted much of his life to doing just that, leaving no one behind. The accomplishments of the Nippon Foundation under the leadership of Yohei Sasakawa and their long-term view of development are nothing short of extraordinary. For more than 50 years, the Foundation has supported a wide range of programs aimed at empowering persons with disabilities and other marginalized people, giving them a voice and empowering them to create more open and inclusive communities. For the past 30 years, I've had the privilege of working closely with Chairman Sasakawa and the remarkable team he has built at their headquarters in Tokyo and in the field. While I very much wish that my next task were being done in person, I am nonetheless thrilled to virtually hand Chairman Sasakawa the very first copy of Partnerships for Change, National Strategies, Regional Collaboration, and ask him to address us. Chairman Sasakawa?
Dr. Larry Campbell, Special Advisor of ICEVI, Dr. Mani, CEO of ICEVI, Ms. Wen Ruini, Program Officer on Net, distinguished guest, it is my greatest honor and privilege to extend my heartfelt gratitude and congratulations for the launch of Partnership for Change National Strategies. My wishes go to all who have dedicated the effort to put together the variable findings and learnings of support of blind and partially sighted people accumulated over more than 30 years in this book. The excellent speeches which two of our fellows representing the graduates made have led me to renew my high esteem for their activities. The Nippon Foundation has, over the decades, worked towards the realization of an all-inclusive society where people with and without disabilities would be able to participate equally. As a result of the contribution of many, the higher education environment and employment for blind and partially sighted people is well under completion. The Nippon Foundation will continue our undertaking so that the people who have completed their education will be able to exert further leadership in society. We will be there with all of you to continue our work in the quest of realizing a world of equal participation. One of our recent activities is the promotion of disability inclusion in business in partnership with the Variable 500 established by Ms. Caroline Casey of Ireland. We have obtained support from the CEOs of 500 major global companies. We are making efforts to establish an inclusive work environment with such companies as Sony, Google, and Microsoft. It is my hope that this book will be shared among these major companies. I'd like to express once again my congratulations on the launch of this excellent publication. The Nippon Foundation remains committed to offer our cooperation towards the realization of a truly inclusive society. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Sasakawa, for being with us today and for what you and the Nippon Foundation do every day to improve the lives of persons with disabilities and to create more open and inclusive communities. As we conclude this session, I know you join me in thanking our speakers. I hope the book that we are launching today will be of interest to you. We want you to know that an EPUB version can be downloaded from the websites of the Overbrook School for the Blind, www.obs.org, or ICEVI, www.icevi.org. Thank you, and please enjoy the rest of this wonderful World Blindness Summit.